Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that being nice isn't the key to happiness and it's certainly not the key to respect? What if I told you that you don't have to shrink, stay silent, or tolerate disrespect to keep the peace? What if I told you that you can be loved, seen, and honored just as you are without compromising your boundaries or your truth? Let's talk about something that impacts women everywhere: the difference between kindness and people-pleasing. We've been taught to be kind, to be polite, to be accommodating, but what happens when that kindness is stretched so far that it becomes a mask for something more dangerous? What happens when it crosses the line into self-betrayal? Here's the truth: kindness is rooted in strength and mutual respect, but people-pleasing comes from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of not being liked. And we are conditioned to believe that being liked is the key to acceptance, so we smile when we're uncomfortable, say yes when we want to say no, and make endless excuses for people who haven't even earned our trust. But I'm here to tell you, that's not kindness. That's you abandoning yourself. So what's the real cost of constantly putting others first? It's not just your time or your energy, it's your self-respect. Every time you brush off your discomfort, every time you tolerate disrespect to avoid conflict, you teach yourself that your needs don't matter. You teach yourself to ignore your own voice. And here's the kicker: you think you're doing the right thing. You've been told that to be a good woman, you must always be understanding, nurturing, and forgiving. But who benefits when you shrink yourself? When you stay silent to keep the peace? When you accept less than you deserve? Not you. Real kindness doesn't require self-sacrifice. It doesn't mean setting yourself on fire to keep others warm. True kindness comes from confidence, not fear. It means setting boundaries. It means saying no when it's necessary. It means walking away from situations that drain you, even if someone else thinks you're being selfish. Being kind to yourself is the first step to being truly kind to others. Let's be clear: respecting yourself isn't about being cold or rude. It's about having standards. Standards that demand you be treated with the same respect you offer. This isn't about making excuses for others or lowering your bar just because someone might meet you halfway. No, this is about holding the line, refusing to let people treat you like an afterthought. When you respect yourself, you stop trying to earn validation from people who haven't earned your respect. You stop tolerating disrespect in hopes that someone will change. That's not how it works. The truth is, when you stop giving respect automatically, you'll start seeing people for who they really are. You'll notice how they treat you when you say no, how they handle responsibility, and if they keep their word. And from there, you can decide who truly deserves a place in your life. Now, respect isn't just about others. It starts with you. When you respect yourself, you don't chase validation. You don't beg for attention. You already know your worth, and that changes everything. You stop settling for less. You stop over-explaining. You stop giving your best to people who can't even offer their bare minimum. You stop engaging with people who treat your time, energy, and emotions as disposable. When you respect yourself, you attract people who see you and honor what they see. But here's the challenge: women have been conditioned to prioritize everyone else first, to be selfless, to be caregivers. We've been taught that putting ourselves first is selfish. But it's not. It's necessary. When you don't respect yourself, everything else starts to fall apart. You settle for mediocre relationships, toxic friendships, jobs that drain you. You start thinking that being disrespected is just part of life, but it's not. That's the result of abandoning yourself, time and time again. It's time to stop. It's time to shift from people-pleasing to self-respect. It won't be easy, and you will feel guilty at first. You'll wonder if you're being mean, if you're overreacting, but that's just your conditioning talking. Speaking up is not rude. Having standards is not mean. Saying no is not selfish. Those are the behaviors of someone who respects herself. And let's talk about boundaries, because this is key. People often confuse boundaries with being rude, cold, or difficult, but they're not. Boundaries are a reflection of your self-respect. They're how you teach the world what is and isn't acceptable. When you don't have boundaries, you allow people to cross the line without consequence. But when you do have boundaries, you create clarity, not just for others, but for yourself. Setting boundaries isn't about being harsh, it's about being clear. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't owe anyone an apology. You have the right to say no without guilt, to protect your peace, to demand the respect you deserve. And when you honor your own boundaries, you attract people who understand and respect them. It's that simple. Self-respect is the foundation of everything. It sets the tone for every interaction, every decision, every relationship. When you respect yourself, you stop tolerating disrespect. You stop letting people walk all over you. You stop waiting for validation from others. You start showing up for yourself, and that sends a powerful message to the world. This is who I am, and I will not settle for less than I deserve. So if you want to change how the world responds to you, you have to start by changing how you respond to yourself. Do you respect yourself enough to say no when you need to? Do you set boundaries and enforce them? Do you honor your own needs and desires? Because if you don't, no one else will either. Remember, you are allowed to demand respect. You are allowed to walk away from relationships that drain you. You are allowed to put yourself first, because when you do, everything shifts. Self-respect isn't just about confidence, it's about clarity, strength, and peace. It's about showing up as your true self without apology and setting the standard for how others should treat you. And when you do that, you'll never settle for less than you deserve. Boundaries are a radical act of self-love. Setting boundaries is one of the most empowering and essential acts you can do for yourself. Yet, despite their importance, many people, especially women, find themselves hesitant or even fearful of establishing them. This hesitation often stems from societal conditioning that tells us we should always be accommodating, kind, and agreeable, especially in relationships with others. We're taught to be people pleasers, to avoid conflict, and to go out of our way to make others feel comfortable, even at the cost of our own needs and desires. This mindset is so deeply ingrained in us that it becomes difficult to even recognize that we're betraying ourselves by not setting boundaries. But what if setting boundaries wasn't selfish or rude? What if it was a radical act of self-love, a necessary practice to ensure we're living in a way that honors our own well-being? The truth is that boundaries are not only a way of protecting ourselves from toxic dynamics and draining relationships, but they are also essential for maintaining our mental, emotional, and physical health. At the core of this concept is the understanding that we cannot pour from an empty cup. If we constantly give without regard for our own needs, we eventually burn out. We become depleted, resentful, and disconnected from who we truly are. This disconnection often leads to feelings of frustration, anxiety, and even depression because we're not honoring our own desires and needs. We may feel unappreciated, unseen, or even invisible. And yet, we continue to sacrifice ourselves because we fear disappointing others or upsetting the balance of our relationships. When we avoid setting boundaries, we inadvertently teach others that it is acceptable to disregard our feelings and expectations. We enable unhealthy behavior, and in doing so, we invite more of it into our lives. This cycle of self-neglect begins to erode our self-esteem and our sense of self-worth. We begin to believe that we are only valuable when we're giving, when we're putting others first, when we're sacrificing our own happiness for theirs. But in reality, this is not sustainable, and more importantly, it's not fair to us. It's crucial to recognize that boundaries are not about creating walls to push people away. Rather, they are about establishing clear, healthy lines of respect and understanding. Boundaries communicate what is acceptable and what is not, and they protect the most important relationship you'll ever have, the one with yourself. When we set boundaries, we are making a powerful declaration that our needs matter, that our time, energy, and emotions are valuable, and that we deserve to be treated with the same level of respect that we offer to others. We are asserting our right to exist as our true selves without constantly bending or compromising who we are to appease others. A common misconception about boundaries is that they are meant to be rigid or inflexible. In truth, boundaries can be fluid and adaptable based on the situation. Some may need to be reinforced more firmly, especially if someone repeatedly disrespects them, while others may shift and evolve as our own needs change. The key is recognizing that we are allowed to change our minds, set limits, and say no when something doesn't serve us. Boundaries are a living practice, meant to protect and nurture our inner selves as we navigate through life's relationships and demands. Many of us feel uncomfortable setting boundaries because we fear being labeled as selfish, rude, or cold. We worry that people will think we are being difficult or unkind. We fear rejection or criticism for standing up for our needs. But the truth is, boundaries are not about pushing people away or being harsh. They are about creating space for honesty and clarity in our relationships. By clearly expressing our limits, we are fostering respect and trust. Boundaries invite open communication and mutual understanding, allowing us to build more genuine connections with others. Unfortunately, society has conditioned us to think that being nice is the ultimate goal. We are told that to be liked, we must always put others before ourselves, smooth things over, and make ourselves small to fit into the expectations of others. This nice girl programming teaches us to tolerate disrespect, ignore our own feelings, and accept things that don't work for us, all in the name of being liked or keeping the peace. But in the process, we lose sight of who we truly are. We start to shape ourselves into the version of us that others want us to be, rather than embracing the fullness of our true selves. Being nice in this context is often a survival mechanism. Something we learned as a way to avoid conflict, to prevent rejection, or to gain approval. It is not an expression of kindness, but a strategy to maintain control over our social interactions. And while there's nothing inherently wrong with being kind, the problem arises when being nice becomes a mask that we wear to protect ourselves from discomfort or conflict. This is where the danger lies. When we consistently suppress our own desires, needs, and feelings to please others, we begin to lose touch with who we really are. We stop listening to ourselves and start trying to live up to an ideal that is based on external validation rather than internal truth. Boundaries are a powerful tool for reclaiming our sense of self. When we set them, we're telling the world and ourselves that we are worthy of love and respect, and that our needs are just as important as anyone else's. This act of self-love is not about being perfect or never making mistakes. It's about recognizing that we are human, that we have limits, and that we deserve to be treated with kindness and consideration. Moreover, setting boundaries allows us to cultivate deeper, more authentic relationships. When we clearly communicate our needs and expectations, we invite others to do the same. This fosters an environment of mutual respect and understanding. In relationships where both parties feel heard and valued, there is space for growth, trust, and connection. Boundaries help us avoid resentment, as we are no longer constantly suppressing our feelings in order to accommodate others. Instead, we can engage in relationships where both our emotional and physical well-being are prioritized. Setting boundaries doesn't mean we're shutting people out or rejecting them. It simply means we're taking responsibility for our own well-being. We're acknowledging that we cannot control how others behave, but we can control how we respond to them. And in doing so, we preserve our peace and protect our energy. Boundaries are about self-preservation and self-respect, not about pushing others away. The journey to embracing boundaries is often difficult, especially if you've spent a lifetime ignoring your own needs in favor of others. You may face resistance, both from yourself and from the people around you. You may feel guilty for saying no or feel conflicted about putting yourself first. But over time, you'll come to realize that setting boundaries is not only essential for your well-being, but it is also an act of love for the people in your life. When you are clear about your limits, others can understand where you stand, and they can choose to meet you there or not. And if they don't, that's okay too. You are worthy of relationships that honor and respect your boundaries, and you should never feel obligated to settle for anything less. It's important to remember that boundaries are not static. They are a fluid, evolving practice that helps you grow and thrive in all areas of your life. As you learn to set them, you'll notice a profound shift in how you interact with others and how you feel about yourself. You'll begin to feel more confident, more secure, and more aligned with your true values. You'll attract healthier, more supportive relationships that nourish your soul rather than drain you. And most importantly, you'll begin to live a life that is authentic and true to who you really are, without the fear of judgment or the need to appease others. Being nice is not the same as being kind. Throughout much of our lives, we are taught to be nice. From an early age, many of us are conditioned to believe that the ideal way to engage with others is by being pleasant, agreeable, and kind. We learn that nice people are liked, and that being nice is a way of keeping the peace, avoiding conflict, and making people feel comfortable. Society often places a high value on being nice, especially for women, as if it were a personality trait that defines our worth. But the truth is, nice is not the same as kind, and in fact, being nice can sometimes be a form of self-betrayal. The concept of niceness is often rooted in the fear of conflict, rejection, and disapproval. Being nice means going along with things, suppressing our own feelings and desires, and constantly prioritizing the comfort of others over our own. When we are overly focused on being nice, we may find ourselves saying yes when we mean no, agreeing to things that drain us, and staying in situations that don't serve us, all in an attempt to keep everyone around us happy. This people-pleasing behavior often stems from a fear of upsetting others or a deep-seated belief that we must earn love and approval by making ourselves small, quiet, and agreeable. Being nice is often a learned behavior ingrained into us from childhood. Girls, in particular, are frequently socialized to be nice. We are taught to smile, to keep our opinions to ourselves, and to avoid rocking the boat. We're told to be agreeable, to be polite, and to put others' needs before our own. In many cases, this conditioning leads us to develop a pattern of self-neglect, where we ignore our own desires and preferences in order to maintain harmony with others. We may begin to lose touch with who we really are simply because we are so focused on what others want from us. However, niceness is often a mask. It's a way of presenting a version of ourselves that is acceptable to others, even if it's not an authentic reflection of who we truly are. Nice people are often seen as easy to be around, but this ease can come at a cost. Being nice may prevent us from speaking up when something is bothering us, and it may encourage us to tolerate behaviors and situations that are unhealthy or draining. The desire to be liked, to maintain a certain image, can create a pattern of emotional dishonesty, where we suppress our true feelings and compromise our values just to avoid confrontation. On the other hand, kindness is rooted in self-awareness and authenticity. While being nice often stems from a place of fear and insecurity, kindness comes from a place of strength and love. Kindness is not about saying yes to everything or constantly putting others first. It's about showing compassion and understanding while still maintaining our own boundaries and integrity. Kindness means being honest about our feelings, even if it may be uncomfortable, and treating others with respect without sacrificing our own needs. Kindness comes from a place of emotional maturity, where we are able to honor both our own needs and the needs of others without compromising who we are. The key difference between being nice and being kind is that kindness allows us to be true to ourselves. When we are kind, we act from a place of integrity, making decisions based on what feels right for us rather than out of fear of disappointing someone. We can be kind and still set boundaries, still say no, still express our needs and desires. We can be compassionate while also protecting our peace. Kindness doesn't come from a place of people-pleasing, it comes from a place of self-respect and self-love. Another significant difference between niceness and kindness is how each approach affects our relationships. When we are nice, we often end up in relationships where we are constantly giving without receiving the respect and support we deserve. We may tolerate poor behavior, avoid difficult conversations, and suppress our own needs in order to avoid conflict. Over time, this can lead to resentment and burnout as we find ourselves drained by the demands of others. We may begin to feel invisible, as if our own needs and desires don't matter. In contrast, kindness leads to healthier, more balanced relationships. When we practice kindness, we are able to communicate openly, set clear boundaries, and prioritize our own well-being without guilt. We attract people who value and respect us for who we are, rather than for how much we are willing to sacrifice. Kindness fosters mutual respect, where both parties feel seen and heard. It creates space for vulnerability, trust, and understanding, rather than the surface-level pleasantries that come with being nice. Being nice can also trap us in unhealthy patterns of behavior. When we prioritize others' comfort over our own, we may start to lose touch with our true selves. We may stop asking for what we need or even acknowledging what we want. We may find ourselves in situations that are emotionally or mentally draining, but we keep going along with them because we don't want to upset anyone. Over time, this can lead to feelings of frustration, resentment, and exhaustion. We may begin to feel like we are living our lives for everyone else rather than for ourselves. On the other hand, kindness encourages us to take care of ourselves first. It reminds us that we cannot pour from an empty cup, and that we have to take care of our own needs before we can effectively care for others. Kindness allows us to create space for ourselves, to honor our feelings and desires, and to say no when something doesn't align with our values. When we practice kindness, we recognize that we are worthy of love and respect just as we are, without having to earn it by constantly pleasing others. The truth is, being nice often leads to self-neglect, while kindness leads to self-care. When we focus on being nice, we may avoid conflict at the expense of our own well-being. We may constantly put others' needs before our own, leading to burnout and emotional exhaustion. But when we embrace kindness, we recognize that it is okay to put ourselves first, to say no, to set boundaries, and to protect our peace. Kindness is not about being perfect or pleasing everyone. It's about being true to ourselves and treating others with respect while also respecting our own limits. In addition, being nice often comes with an unspoken expectation that others will like or approve of us. We may engage in people-pleasing behaviors in order to gain approval or avoid rejection, but this approach can lead to disappointment and hurt when others don't appreciate or reciprocate our efforts. In contrast, kindness is not about seeking approval or validation. It is about showing compassion and respect without any expectation of something in return. When we are kind, we are not looking for validation from others, but rather for an authentic connection based on mutual respect and understanding. Kindness also encourages us to be honest with ourselves and others. When we are nice, we often avoid saying things that may upset others, even if it means sacrificing our own needs. We may agree to things we don't really want to do simply to avoid disappointing someone. But when we are kind, we are able to express our feelings and needs in an honest and respectful way. We can say no without guilt, set boundaries without fear, and prioritize our own well-being without feeling selfish. Kindness allows us to be authentic in our relationships rather than hiding behind a facade of niceness. One of the most powerful aspects of kindness is that it can help us create deeper, more meaningful relationships. When we are kind, we are not seeking approval or trying to please others. Instead, we are focused on building authentic connections based on mutual respect and understanding. Kindness allows us to be vulnerable, to show up as our true selves, and to foster relationships that are supportive, compassionate, and emotionally fulfilling. In contrast, when we focus too much on being nice, we may find ourselves in relationships where we are constantly compromising our own needs and desires. We may feel like we are walking on eggshells, always trying to please others and avoid conflict. This dynamic can create resentment, frustration, and a sense of emotional depletion as we give and give without receiving the support and care we need in return. The focus on being nice can prevent us from being honest and authentic in our relationships, leading to a lack of genuine connection. Ultimately, kindness is about respecting both ourselves and others. It's about acknowledging our own needs, desires, and boundaries, while also honoring the needs of those around us. Kindness creates space for open communication, vulnerability, and growth, and it allows us to build relationships that are based on mutual respect and understanding. While being nice may make us more agreeable or likable in the short term, kindness builds lasting, meaningful connections that nourish and support us in the long term. As we reach the end of this journey through understanding the power of self-respect, boundaries, and embracing true love for ourselves, remember this: you are not hard to love. You are worthy of respect, kindness, and a love that nourishes your soul, not one that drains or compromises your worth. Every step you take toward choosing yourself, setting your boundaries, and prioritizing your peace is a step toward the life you deserve. A life rooted in authenticity, clarity, and strength. Know that the road ahead may have moments of discomfort, but it is in those moments that your true power will shine. Stand firm in your truth, and don't let anyone or anything make you feel small. You have the right to demand respect, to protect your energy, and to create relationships that align with your values. You are deserving of love that does not require you to silence yourself, to shrink, or to compromise. The journey is not about pleasing others or living to their standards. It's about living true to your own. It's about making the courageous choice to say no when it's needed and yes to what truly serves you. It's about understanding that the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one you cultivate with yourself. The more you respect, honor, and love yourself, the more that respect and love will be reflected in the world around you. Thank you for taking the time to listen, to reflect, and to grow with me today. Your commitment to yourself and your well-being is powerful. It's a sign of the strength you carry within and a reminder that you are deserving of all the good things this life has to offer. As you move forward, remember that you are not alone in this. The strength to live fully and authentically is within you. You have everything you need to protect your peace, create the life you want, and love yourself fiercely. Trust that the right people and the right experiences will come into your life when you honor who you are. Good luck on this journey. May it be filled with clarity, peace, and the deep, unwavering belief that you are enough just as you are. Thank you. Keep choosing yourself, and may you always walk in your truth.